Yo, I low key
Okay,
been wanting to
I think
do
it's
a
time we find.
quiet on set video because it really spoke a lot to me and many other kids. But I watched all those shows and my mom watched those shows. My mom don't even want to watch the documentary because she's so disturbed about what she heard. And because well, she works with kids and she don't want to see that shit. But nah, bro, that shit was crazy.
Talk about Dan Schneider. Hey guys, what's up? It's Emergency and welcome back to my channel. And today, in light of the recent docu-series that's come out on HBO called Quiet on Set, we're going to be talking about the historic exploitation of child actors in Hollywood and looking specifically at Dan Schneider, who has been hailed historically as the king of children's entertainment from like the 90s to early 2010s. And if you've been on the internet, specifically the deep dive side of the internet, you have probably come across a Dan Schneider deep dive video talking about the darker side of both Nickelodeon and of child stardom. I've also made previous videos talking about this topic, specifically having to do with Jeanette McCurdy when her memoir came out and
And
how
bro,
she
she
spoke on her
dropped it on
experience being a child.
people before. And I heard about it before, but people was quick to dismiss that shit, bro. Like, niggas owe her apology.
Actor and how Dan Schneider allegedly impacted her life and her trajectory. But again, what really inspired this video was the docu-series Quiet on Set, because I feel like it was very eye-opening for a lot of people, because this is one of the first times that we've seen an actual docu-series, like an official investigation deep dive on this topic in a traditional media platform. Like prior to this, a lot of discourse around Dan Schneider, around Nickelodeon, and around child actors and how they've been treated has been carried out through social media, whether they be through comprehensive video essays, TikToks around speculation, or from different whispers around the internet. This is an official project that has been put out that has direct sources, like actual then child actors that had been involved with Dan Schneider.
Before people was saying it's just hearsay or just better people, but no, like this is on wax, basically.
Entertainment industry as a young person, and we're recounting their experiences throughout this docuseries. And while watching through this docuseries, I feel like two of the main emotions that I felt were anger and guilt. Anger because it was really hard seeing these child actors be exploited time and time again, seeing even the adults involved in the production be exploited, whether that be from the women that worked with and for Dan Schneider, having to split the salary of one person between two people, the almost daily massages that Dan Schneider allegedly expected from the female workers in his productions, and of course all the inappropriate and uncomfortable jokes, scenes, and innuendos that were riddled throughout his shows as we were growing up. And where the guilt comes in is purely from the fact that now knowing what we know now, I feel like a lot of our childhoods were a lie. In the sense that for a lot of Gen Z, we grew up on these shows. Maybe not all the ones that were cited in the docuseries, like the Amanda Bynes show and all that.
I'm a millennial. I grew up off that. There's been a lot of discourse on what the fuck I am.
Was a little bit before my time, but in terms of like the Ike Harleys, the Victoriouses, the Drake and Joshes of it all, we were there for that. And looking back at it now, I sort of feel guilty for enjoying these shows as much as I did, knowing what we know now and understanding what these kids were going.
But here's a controversial opinion. I think that you should not watch the show. You should not let your kids watch the show because it's kind of like dying for your work, you know. Drake Bell went through what he went through right before the show. He easily could have canceled if he wasn't feeling up to it. So I feel like to not watch it means that he went through that shit and suffered through work itself for no reason if you don't watch it. I could be wrong. They could have went out and told us not to watch it, and I could just be contradicting a point, you know? But why not watch it? That means they would have suffered and you wouldn't even get the enjoyment out of it. Now, I understand that you wouldn't want the innuendos from Dan Schneider or supporting it, but you get what I'm saying? Like, they've already suffered. What's like, why wouldn't you watch it if they suffered? That means they would have just suffered for no reason. Personally, that's how I feel about it. Maybe I could be wrong about it. Let me know.
For the sake of our entertainment and for the sake of their careers. So in this video, we're just going to talk about the series, the show, Dan Schneider. We're just going to talk about the situation and then break into Dan Schneider's response to the docu-series, which I can just say right now is lackluster at best. So really quick, if you're new to the channel, then definitely subscribe, leave a like on this video, and follow me on my socials at Emergency on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So like I was mentioning before, I really feel like a lot of our childhoods through these shows was a lie, just because While everything seemed so hunky-dory, like so aspirational, everyone wanted to be at Hollywood Arts, everyone wanted to be on iCarly, everyone wanted to be on these shows, both in the universe and then also like in real life. I feel like everyone at the time of these shows airing was like, oh my god, I could be a Victoria's kid, like I could be on this show, I could be an actor, let me hit up the radio stations that are having casting calls. Well, in reality, things were bad. Things were really bad. And we had inklings that things were bad. Like, of course, you hear about the whole child star gone bad pipeline, like all the child stars that seemingly went off the deep end randomly.
Man, they cracked like fucking eggs. Oh shit.
No explanations, Demi Lovato, and having no explanation as to why they end up that way. Well, we have more context now as to why that is through this documentary, because we have examples like Amanda Bynes, Demi Lovato, Drake Bell, and many more who were child star, who all started off as child stars and then had their moments where they were fighting these very real demons that have altered their lives forever. And then a lot of times the missing piece of the story that people tend to not address or tend to forget is the fact that, yeah, the show may be over, but the trauma, the unhealthy coping mechanisms, and the lifestyles that these literal children were in at the time of them filming stays with.
But Josh Peck has been on some bullshit, because I remember him saying he didn't fit in back then with people because he dropped shade towards the other people who were doing drugs and this and that. You know, it was shade towards Drake Bell, but now we get context on why Drake was doing drugs. He wasn't doing drugs to look cool or fit in. He was trying to escape trauma. But like, and I get it that they're coworkers. At the end of the day, you don't talk to all your coworkers. If you weren't busy casting aspersions, it was actually trying to talk. You probably could have figured this out. Like, be fucking for real, bro. There's always two sides of a story. And I remember when he dropped that people was on his side. It's keep your mouth shut about motherfuckers, bro.
Them. So whether that be from substance abuse, unhealthy coping mechanisms, or just other unresolved trauma, that is what these people are walking away with and having to combat well into their adult lives. And one of the main and more shocking examples of this from the show was Drake Bell. And words cannot express how absolutely gagged I was when he first hopped on this docuseries, because in the lead up to it, they kept having murmurs about how one child actor was actually abused pretty harshly, and having the other former child actors trying to place who that child actor could have possibly been that was abused, only to have Drake Bell appear, gaggy, because I would have never expected. I don't think
because I've been waiting for this shit for like 2 months. I thought it was gonna be Amanda Bynes on my soul. Then Drake popped up. I was like, oh shit. I don't doubt it. You was there for years. You probably went through some bullshit. Nah, he went through some shit
anyone would have ever expected. And the fact that this was kept so low-key for so long honestly speaks to the level of trauma that Drake had been going through. And it's really sad because Drake Bell should have never gone through anything. Drake Bell should have never even been put in a situation where something like that could have happened. Like, there should have been protections in place where grown adults can essay and otherwise on and
dummy bitch, bro.
off the sets of a workplace. And I feel like a lot of it just comes back to the whole cost of fame, especially when these workplaces in entertainment have historic.
I keep going off on these tangents. His mom did that shit to spite his father. And I know this is gonna sound so off key and like this isn't no red pill shit. Bro. Yeah, his mother and his pops were split up. Something Peck. I can't remember the mother. Brian Peck manipulated Drake into believing his father won't go for his life. And so Drake wanted to stay with his mom. You know, boom, boom. I ain't telling y'all nothing new. He had one request. Don't let the nigga stay with that nigga, bro. She did that shit to spite that nigga. Because she thought that he did not know anything. Like, let's be for real. Like, I'm not saying that she was like, oh, fuck your father, I'm gonna do it. But it's like, if they weren't split, it wouldn't have happened. But since they, come on, be for real, man. Like, and I've seen it happen in real time. Where there's no regard for what the dad says. Because, oh, it's my house. Ooh. She should have been on that motherfucking camera talking. She should have been the one talking and not his dad. Dad ain't do nothing wrong. Dad was 10 toes.
Not valued children's safety. Like, there should have been no world where the man that abused Drake Bell, who was known to be creepy and weird, had a whole shrine and pieces and conversations with an incarcerated serial killer should have been allowed anywhere near children. And especially not after going to jail. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, there is no reason that that man should have been allowed on a set and continued to be on a set, because I think he went to go work at Disney after he got found guilty for all the things that he did to Drake Bell. Like, there should have been more screenings to keep weirdos and pets from being on.
I swear to God, I swear to y'all. But I feel so passionate about this because I see shit like this. Not like this, bro. Somebody be in Lake Norman fucking missing. If I ever seen this, but bro, people will forgive you as long as they like you. And I swear on my soul, like, you can be the worst person in the world. As long as people like you, they will overlook your flaws until they don't like you anymore. Pete Diddy's an example. Bro, niggas know what Diddy was doing for years. Niggas made all these jokes. LeBron made them little weak-ass jokes. LeBron seen that shit, and I don't give a damn. This is not me casting aspersions. When you say ain't no party like a Diddy party, you have been to that motherfucker. Like, people's been casting aspersions, but now it's not cool to support Diddy. So now, people ain't sticking their neck out. But before, it was no problem. As long as niggas like you, they will overlook your flaws and your bad behavior, and that's what happened. He had people in the courtroom, fucking, like, basically cheering him on. Like, there wasn't a mountain of evidence that this nigga did this shit. Like, told you he would have been in Lake Norman, missing.
That's with children, and honestly just people in general, to be honest. And I'm not sure how different things are nowadays in terms of regulations and screening and who is allowed on sets, but it's clear as day that nothing like this should ever be allowed to happen again. And all this is to say that even throughout this docuseries, we've only heard from a few voices talking about the traumatic things that they have gone through. And I just know for sure that these aren't the only people that have been affected, that have gone through things. They're just the ones that are comfortable right now with sharing their story. But the fact that the stories among the people that have come out are so consistent.
Matthew Underwood, I believe, he goes by Logan, from Zoe 101, came out and said he was essayed by his manager when he was a kid, and essayed again in his late teens. And he just basically said that we don't come out and speak because, like, I haven't even really processed it yet all these years. So, hey.
Such a through line should really be concerning, because we really failed a whole generation of child actors. Well, I mean, we didn't necessarily fail as, like, the people watching it, because we were kids at the time. There's nothing we could have done. But the people that were in charge at that time, the people that were supposed to be adults and were supposed to be looking out for these child actors, failed an entire generation of them. If this many people can be impacted by this section of entertainment. And I want to say really quickly in regards to my last point, I really respect everyone's choice to come forward with their story or not. Because at the end of the day, they're a victim and it's their story and it's their right to choose whether or not they want to share their trauma with the world. I've been seeing a lot of people talk online about, like, oh my God, why isn't so-and-so speaking up about what went down on set or what went down behind the scenes? Like, why do you feel entitled to that information? Like, just because it's being highlighted right now and because it is the topic of conversation right now, does not mean that we as the audience, we as the people that are learning this information for the first time, deserve every single aspect of these people's trauma, of their lived experience. Like, how insane does that sound if you're just generally talking about something traumatic that happened and expecting people to relive that trauma for you, for your entertainment and for your clarity? And then they have the nerve to call those people selfish. Like, that is selfish behavior. But all that aside, regardless of whatever else went down, one thing is for sure, and that is that Dan Schneider never needs to work again. He doesn't need to be on a set ever again. And that may be a harsh take, but I feel like after the decades and decades of repeated behavior, I personally feel like he's shown well enough that he is not fit to be in these positions on a personal level. Whether or not he makes hit shows is regardless, because he has made really popular shows, but everything that's gone on behind the scenes, whether it be for the cast, the crew, or even the viewers, based on things that he would put in his shows, it's just generally all detrimental. Like, the adult and sexual innuendos that would be littered throughout his shows are ridiculous, and really leads you to ask, like, who is this for? Like, who are these jokes? Who are these, like, little nods for, you know? Because we're gonna get into this a little bit later, but, like, in his, like, PR interview where he's trying to address everything, he's like, these were jokes made for kids. Like, they're made for kids, but now that the kids are grown up, the adults are finding issues with it. Like, let me just stop you right there, sir. While yes, mature or adult innuendos or jokes are littered throughout all forms of media, even in media that's meant to be for younger people. And if you look and revisit some of your favorite shows and movies that you watched growing up as a kid, you're gonna catch some of those things. They are nowhere near the frequency or the intensity of the ones that were placed in Dan
I think
Schneider
that's what
shows.
it was. It was like nonstop. Um, yeah, it was just nonstop, and it was high frequency of the shit. Uh, Based off of it, take away the innuendos, take away the inappropriate jokes, because he could have just thought they were jokes. I'm not gonna sit there and bullshit with you. He's just a terrible person. He's a man that abused his power because he's a little person deep down. Like it was never okay to ask for massages from your coworkers. Like, especially from people up under you. Once you reach a certain level, it's inappropriate to ask certain things from the people that you're over. And he knew that. Like, he needed his ass beat.
Like, from feet to sexualizing young girls, to phallic imagery, to graphic innuendos. And a lot of that stuff could just be describing one show, Victorious. Because while Victorious wasn't highlighted a bunch in the docuseries, a lot of the discourse and a lot of the more risque things happening to the cast that don't have to do with inappropriate relations between an adult and a minor came from Victorious, from all the different innuendos, from the different uncomfortable scenes, especially from the extra clips from the slap where you'd have different members of the cast. Usually the girls make these really suggestive comments and be in these really suggestive skits. I know that Ariana Grande's character Kat Valentine had a lot of these, and a lot of them have gone viral and have been included in the docuseries, but rewatching them now, they're just bad. Like, I don't even think when I was initially watching them as a kid, I was like, oh wow, this is funny. I think I remember myself being like, oh okay, that was weird, like, what is this?
This
Why
white
is this
people
happening,
shit.
you know? And there are so many video clips online of the Victorious cast, the iCarly cast, just being generally uncomfortable and guarded whenever Dan Schneider shows up with his little camera recording clips. Like, they look visibly uncomfortable and like they don't want to be around him. And it really makes you wonder why. Now that we mentioned his name enough, let's talk about the Dan Schneider apology video. I don't even know if I can call it an apology video, but more of like Dan Schneider breaks his silence type beat. Because this whole thing felt so strange to me. I've seen a lot of other reactions to his response, and specifically the reaction from Alexa Nicholas, who was both in the docuseries and has previously worked with Dan Schneider on Zoe 101. But this whole response just seemed so strange to me because it gave PR, it gave, I'm going to address this on my own terms. And I feel like when
Boy, when I
allegations
saw
of this
that
type of
video, I didn't even listen to it. I'm not even gonna sit here and bullshit with you. I read the high points, but when I immediately saw it, bro, I know that ain't Tebow's ass, bro. If I see Tebow, I'm gonna snatch him up by his damn dreads and walk the dog on his dumb ass. Cause what the fuck you doing in this video, my nigga? Like, Tebow's old ass.
up against you, you should not necessarily try and control the narrative as freely. Like, you should try and clear things up in a very fair way. And I don't feel like this apology that he was doing was necessarily that. Because for one, he chose not to go on the docuseries itself to address the public, to address the victims of him in the workplace that he would create. He decided to go on his own YouTube channel and be interviewed by one of his own old actors, who was a grown adult the entire time that they worked together, to sit down and interview him 60 minutes style about the things that had been brought up against him in the docuseries that he could have been a part of and address those things in. It just gave, he can control the narrative however way he wants. And of course, like any good apology video, the comments for the video are turned off. And while I feel like the guy that interviewed him, who played T-Bone on iCarly, did offer some interesting questions.
Snatched up. Because you can also tell he did multiple takes. This wasn't a 1-through type style shit.
A lot of Dan Schneider's answers kind of deflected the blame on like this past self, his old mistakes, other people around him that didn't stop him, energy, which makes it seem that it was either a one-time thing or like a couple of time thing that happened that he wasn't proud of but would never do again, or like he just simply did not have as much control over the situation as people claim him to, and it's actually someone else's fault that he ran
There
with these
is some
ideas.
validity to that, because Nick could have easily pulled the plug. Nickelodeon is dodging a lot of blame for allowing him to act that way. There's structure to this shit. Even though Dan Schneider was big dog where he was at, he still was a little nigga to Nickelodeon, his acts as a whole. The people in charge of Nick is dodging a lot of blame, and that's on me. Like, I swear to you. Because also, Dan Schneider, once he got to a certain level, did not hire all the niggas up under him. That was somebody else. Like, And it's not me absolving him of blame, but some niggas is dodging blame.
Which both of these just really aren't the case. When in reality, these problematic behaviors and the hostile work environment that he allegedly would create had been going on for decades. Like, it was not just a one-time thing. It was not just something that happened every now and again whenever he get tired. Like, no, that was the consistent way that he had run his workplace for decades. So the apology kind of fell flat because, like, I don't think I'm sorry, I'm so embarrassed is going to account for decades worth of trauma.
And he dressed like a damn sex offender.
Generations of kids that need therapy have gone through treacherous things, you know? And one point that Alexa brings up is that this apology that he's issuing should not be so public, or at least the first apology that the child actors are getting should be so public. Like, again, he'd been doing this for decades. It's been a while since these shows have wrapped airing. If he really felt this bad about everything, he has had plenty of time to reach out personally to these people that he's affected to apologize and give a genuine apology. But it seems like in this case, he only really cares enough to apologize and take accountability when he gets called out on a large enough scale to where he kind of has to. And something else that kind of bothered me about this interview, the interviewer, like, he was giving Schneider a lot of grace. A lot of grace. And he mentioned a couple times that in his experience, he thought that all the cast felt comfortable around Schneider, and he himself didn't really pick up on the things that people have been saying in the docuseries and have been saying online. And to that, I say, again, he was an adult the entire time on set. If all the other adults either did not know or were complicit in the stuff that was happening to these kids, what makes you think that he would be any different? If the kids are saying that they were...
I haven't heard, but from his actions, I feel like Jerry Trainer didn't know. He's the guy that plays Spencer and Crazy Steve, but he immediately unfollowed them niggas and took a stand with the quiet on set victims. Because, like, bro, he's on go, bro. You ain't got to tell me no more, bro. This is bullshit.
Impacted that they feel this type of way, talk to them, listen to their opinion, because they are the least protected and the most vulnerable people on that set. And in regards to the stuff where they're talking about jokes again, talking about like how the jokes were made to be friendly and funny to kids, and if they weren't funny or appropriate to kids, they would have and should have taken those episodes off air. But my thing is, I feel like the point is being missed. I don't think it's about necessarily cutting the jokes now 10, 20 years down the line. It's the fact and the principle that the jokes were there in the first place, you know? Like, these jokes and bits that were made for kids, if they go over kids' heads and the kids aren't able to really understand what the joke is actually meant to be, then guess what? The intended audience of that joke is not for kids. If the joke goes over the intended audience's head, that is not the intended audience. Meaning that these jokes weren't made for them. It was not an adult writing kids' jokes for kids. It was an adult writing adult-coded jokes for a kids' show that were primarily to be caught and understood the first time by adults, because they have that context and are able to understand what visually is being implied. I took this comms class in college where we talked about conscious and subconscious stimuli, basically how in like marketing and promotion and visual materials and entertainment
Maybe
and just in the
destroying your mind. That's what he's gonna say in his lump sum. I'm a marketing major, and I can tell you that wholeheartedly. That should be destroying you. You don't even know it.
There's a direct message that an ad or a piece of media is trying to display to you, and then there's that subconscious stimuli, that subconscious aspect of that media that isn't explicitly stated but is understood based on, like, whether those be visual cues, colors, symbols, images, to get a point or a message across without having to explicitly say it, even though sometimes the jokes in these shows would closely explicitly say it. Like, while yes, that clip of Ariana Grande trying to squeeze a potato and get the juice out of a potato may just seem innocent and like she's just trying to juice a potato, the subconscious mind of that image and that objective can be applied elsewhere. And that's just messed up.
Juice no damn potato. Like, come on, be fucking for real.
Also, shout out to me finally using my degree. But another thing that I was kind of shocked that they didn't necessarily touch on in the interview, well, I don't know if I'm necessarily shocked because, like, I don't know why I would expect them to really get into that, but one thing that the doc really touched on was how race played a factor on these shows and behind the scenes on these shows, specifically how Dan Schneider would kind of be distant and colder towards the actors of color, the people of color on set, than he would be for their white counterparts. Like, he talked a little bit about like how he wishes he was better to people as a whole, but addressing that more specifically would have been nice, because Is that any different? Because you brought a black man who has been beloved for being kind of like a meme slash fan favorite from an iCarly show to basically defend you and clear
Yeah,
up your image. But you know, that's neither here nor there. This whole situation is just so messed up. Like, it's
he
been
gonna need his ass beat for that. He,
messed up from the time that everything has been taking place even to now. Like, new things are unfolding day by day. Like, people are coming out with their own stories, people are coming out with clarifications, and it
Josh
really
Peck
just brings
needs his ass beat too.
this to the greater conversation of child actors in Hollywood and the fact that they have historically just been so underprotected and cared for in terms of just general safety and well-being. Like, a recent testimony from a former child actor, Amber Frank, who was on another show on Nickelodeon, has given more context talking about other really messed up things that have happened while she was working at Nickelodeon that were inappropriate for children. And it's just a lack of accountability overall. Like, while people can say that things have gotten better, things have improved with time, there's still, again, a whole generation of people that have been impacted by this, and there's been no
That's an
accountability.
unacceptable way to grab a woman, bro. By all stretch of the imagination, especially a young girl, where you don't grab people like that. Hell, you don't grab men like that. That's a goddamn chokehold. Motherfucker trying to put that girl to sleep.
Taken to mend these relationships and to give justice to these people. And we can only really hope that things are better now. And again, even if they aren't, I hope that we hear about it and things can be done about it now, as opposed to too far in the future where it could be just generally too late. But yeah, that's pretty much what I want to talk about in this video, y'all. I didn't want to get too deep in this. I just wanted to really get these thoughts off my chest. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Have you seen Quiet on Set? We've been looped into this general controversy. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments section below. Let's have a conversation down there talking about this. Again, thanks so much for watching. If you like this content, then consider subscribing and leaving a like. Follow me on my socials. But other than that, y'all, I have an emergency and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
My boy always do good work. Go ahead and follow him. But a few things I want to touch on. People don't understand what grooming really is, and people don't understand how abuse really works. Bro, grooming is just being around somebody so long and making them experience things that they wouldn't normally see at that age or experience later in life. And that's what, like, they were being groomed for adults and adult audiences. I know that was a quick touch, but I want to touch on abuse. Bro, I hate when people say everybody was not abused. That's not how abuse works. This is how you abuse somebody. And I'm not saying this from personal experience, this is from reading. You abuse, and say like there's 10 people, you abuse 5 and treat the other 5 perfectly. So when discourse comes out, the other 5 take your back. If you abuse all 10 of them, you 100% did that shit. Now, since there's only 5 out of the 10, it's murky. The other 5 are now coming to your defense, and now it's cast aspersions on the 5 you did abuse. That's how you take control. That's how you do that shit. So for the fact that people are like, oh, everybody's not coming forward, or some people on some shows wasn't treated this way, if the motherfucker did it to everybody, he would have been out of here a long time ago. Dumbass niggas, like, bro, you use that up top. Like, I know y'all niggas don't read, but damn. But once again, Drake's mom, dummy bitch. Don't ever let no niggas. If you're friends with a child, nigga, you're weird. The only time that you should be friends with somebody younger than you is at work, max. But you should not. No, like, I don't give a damn if you do work with kids. You should be hanging out with other grown ass men. You should not have the kids around after the set. The kids should be with their motherfucking friends. Boy. Robin Bell, that's her name. It'll be etched into my mind for a good minute. That bitch stupid. Dummy bitch, bro. These kids should have never went through that because there were so many signs. I think that's the issue. There were signs, and like basically they weren't trying to hide it. But you allowed it for fame and fortune. It didn't even go far. Because nobody from Nick really blew up like talking about it except for Ariana Grande. If we're being for real. Like, I don't know. I can rant about this a long time. Once again, bro, if I find somebody doing it, they out of here. I'm going to beat their ass with a damn crowbar. Did y'all watch Quiet on Set? Tell me how y'all felt about it. Give me some of y'all's reactions and what was y'all's emotions through it. And yeah, let's just have a conversation about it. Be sure to like, and subscribe so you don't miss more content like this. And I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.